Welcome to Woodlands Test Prep's Question Corner, where we answer your most important questions about learning and testing, including the SAT, ACT, PSAT, SSAT, and AP testing. Today we're going to answer the all-important question of what's the difference between the ACT math section and the SAT math section? While both the ACT and SAT test the math that most high school students will have studied, they concentrate on different content areas and test them in very different formats. To highlight how they're different, let's start with the structure of the test. The SAT tests math over two sections. The first one does not allow you to use your calculator. Both the non-calculator and calculator sections of the SAT have questions at the end where you provide a numeric answer rather than choosing a multiple choice answer. The non-calculator section has 20 questions to answer in 25 minutes, and the calculator section has 38 questions to answer in 55 minutes. The ACT is, per usual, way more straightforward. It asks you 60 multiple choice questions in 60 minutes. So the first difference is, as we've mentioned before, the SAT gives you quite a bit more time per question, whereas the ACT really clicks right along. Some more minor but still important differences are that where the ACT allows you to use a calculator the whole time, they have a more limited selection of calculators that are allowed. Be sure to check that your calculator is allowed. Also, the SAT has 4 answer choices, whereas the ACT has 5. The SAT gives you a formula sheet with a lot of geometry formulas, although ironically tests you on very little geometry, whereas the ACT gives you 0 formulas, so you need to memorize what you need to know ahead of time. Overall, in terms of structure, as we've discussed in other videos, the ACT is way more straightforward and has a bigger emphasis on calculation, whereas the SAT puts more emphasis on critical thinking and figuring out what kind of math needs to be done. Turning to content, while there is some overlap, there are significant differences in the content areas that are tested. The SAT tests Heart of Algebra, or Algebra 1, Passport to Advanced Math, or Algebra 2, Problem Solving and Data Analysis, which is basically charts and tables, and it asks you to read them and calculate different kinds of averages and percent changes, and then additional topics in math, which is basically geometry, maybe one trigonometry question, and maybe one complex number question. So, the SAT is pretty focused on algebra and data analysis, and that's pretty much it. In contrast, the ACT is more like a smorgasbord of everything you've learned in math from middle school forward. It tests middle school topics like fractions and integers, Algebra 1 and Algebra 2, including all the stuff on the SAT, plane geometry, coordinate geometry, trigonometry, data concepts like percents, averages, and study design, matrices, logarithms, proportions, probabilities, and other topics as well. So, the ACT is more heavily content-focused, but much easier to figure out what the question wants you to do. The best way to figure out which test works best for you is to take a full-length test of each one. Check out our other videos which talk more about this. We look forward to helping you think about the math sections and all the other sections on both the ACT and the SAT. Have more questions? Contact us by phone or email or text. We've worked with thousands of students, helping them to achieve their goals. We'd love to work with you.